Hi, Olivia. It's nice to see you today.
Hi, it's so nice to see you. I'm glad we got to meet again.
How's your day going so far?
It's going good. I actually Thursdays are my free days, so I woke up and worked out and I don't have class until 3, so that's nice.
Yeah, I know we talked a lot last week about prioritizing working out. So it sounds like you already started your day with getting that in.
Yeah, definitely. I was gonna wake up and do homework, but I realized that it would make me feel better and do homework better later if I worked out like we were talking about. And so I went and did that and now I feel a lot better.
Yeah, so physical health, and now you have this session for your mental health.
Yeah, definitely is good to back it up. I know I was like, oh, gotta get home for my session.
I know last week we talked, more about your anxiety and how it presents, and then we talked about some coping skills, like maybe writing down some of your thoughts and, continuing to have more of a routine to help you set some of those boundaries. So I'm going to leave it up to you of where you'd like to begin today.
Well, actually, I know we've been talking a lot about law school and family, but I have something different that I wanted to talk about today that I think is contributing kind of to some of the general anxiety I feel.
Okay. Can you tell me a little bit more about it?
Yeah, so last year I remember I told you just as some like background information that I lived alone during COVID.
Mhm.
And it was hard, and so I got a roommate and I thought it was going to be really nice just be less lonely.
Mhm.
And I'm starting to have some issues there, and it's like it's starting to make like life at home not feel like as much, not as a safe place. I can't think of the right word, but just not as like a place where I can just completely relax.
Yeah.
We're having some issues because before we moved in, we talked about like I have a boyfriend, you remember Colin,
Mhm.
and she has a boyfriend too. And I was like, oh yeah, like I'll be gone some weekends. It's nice to have a roommate that's okay with him coming here, me going there. She was like, yeah, I'm like happy to because I'm gonna have my boyfriend over because he goes to the same school.
Mhm.
And he has been over every single night for 7 weeks now. And it's kind of just a lot. It upsets me a lot because I actually talked to her about it like 2 weeks in because I wanted to have like a good foundation,
Mhm.
and it felt like all of everything I said was just completely ignored.
Yeah, so let me reflect to make sure I'm hearing what you're saying. So it sounds like you were looking forward to having a roommate because there was some loneliness when you lived alone for a year, and you were looking forward to the roommate, and now you've been trying to set some boundaries with her, and your home isn't feeling like a comfortable, safe space anymore.
Yes, exactly. So I'm like, I'm thinking about last year and I was lonely, but like at least I could go in my living room when I wanted or like cook food when I wanted. And now it's kind of like I'm alone anyways. And now I don't have access to my full living space.
Yeah.
So I think that's been really hard. And I'm really upset mostly because I brought it up like right away because I'm kind of like a confrontational person. I wanted to like set the boundary early and make sure it was known. And it just, if anything, has gotten worse. And like it happened like the next day, like what I was talking to her about. So it's just been really stressful. I mean, I'm doing this session at my friend's house because the
Mhm.
boyfriend's at my apartment and my friend's not there, and I don't obviously can't talk about it around them.
Yeah, so you're not even allowed to just be open and be in your own space. You're having to go, to a friend's house to be able to be comfortable when really that, you're spending money on a place and we're hoping to have that within your own apartment.
Yeah, exactly. I think it was like I had so much high expectations just because I was so lonely last year, and now I'm feeling more lonely because I'm like surrounded by people at the same time. And like you were saying about money, I know we talked about this, but I mean, the only reason I had a lot of savings, and the only reason I'm working is because I do live in a really nice place and I do pay a lot of money. And I just work so I can pay my rent, and it's just as frustrating when I'm paying all this money and I'm working so hard for a place I basically just sleep at.
Yeah, I'm hearing some like anger, but also some sadness, and not being able to have the experience that you want. And also like this, the friendship that you had with this person. It sounds like you said you feel alone even in the same space with her and her partner.
Yeah, exactly. It's like, and it also it just makes it harder because I feel like I spoke and like that was kind of hard for me to bring up something so uncomfortable, and then it was just like immediately disrespected, and now it just makes me feel more uncomfortable to bring it up again or make another solution because clearly what I say like that isn't getting across.
Yeah, so there's not a lot of respect, it sounds like.
Yeah, it's hard because it's like I know it sounds dramatic, but I feel like I've never really felt super disrespected and like I just feel disrespected for sure.
Yeah. Can you
And
tell me, oh, sorry, go ahead.
sorry, it's hard because her boyfriend doesn't like his current living situation. So he wants to like be at our place all the time, but it's hard on me because now I don't like my current living situation and I'm paying so much money for it. And like I think they've gone to his place like maybe 4 times, maybe 3 or 4 times.
Yeah.
And that's okay, but it's just also like even if she was there every night, I feel like it still would upset me because I didn't know I'd be basically alone all the time.
Yeah, so it's like for his comfort, he's at your place for at the expense of your discomfort. And it's like you have
Mhm.
a third roommate that you didn't sign up for.
Yeah, and especially him being a male, I feel like, more uncomfortable, just not, like, unsafe or anything, but just like, oh, if I wake up, like, and I'm in, like, my underwear and a bra and whatever I wanna be in my own home, I feel uncomfortable.
Yeah, and you mentioned like your living space, your kitchen space that, he and or your roommate are constantly together in those spaces. So it doesn't give you space to use your part or your apartment and be open and comfortable in like either what you're wearing or what you're doing, what you're talking about.
Yeah, yeah, exactly. I didn't really put that together, but it is, like, every aspect, I feel like I'm doing that, and, um I just feel like there's no boundaries there, so I'm not really sure how I'm gonna make it better, but actually I just don't know what to do because I already set a boundary, and that boundary's been, like, disrespected now for, like, 3 or 4 weeks, and I just feel really unheard, and it's hard too because I am gone a lot on the weekend, so, um, in the last 4 weeks, I've been gone Thursday through Sunday, 3 of the 4. So right there, I mean, that's 12 days of this month that they have the whole entire place to themselves, and they can be there whenever they want, he can be there, I'm not there, okay. It just makes me feel even more worse when she knows I'm only home for 4 days and she can't wait or even just one of those days do it.
Yeah, it sounds like you feel really invalidated and part of you, like since you set those boundaries that there's even more hurt there because they're not being acknowledged.
Yeah, I think before I said anything, it just kind of bugged me. And I was like, "Oh, I'll talk about it." And then ever since I said something, now every time it just like really, really pisses me off. Sorry, that's a strong word, but
Yeah.
really makes me.
Like you're irritated, you're angry. I can see
Yeah,
that kind of when you're even expressing it, that some of those emotions are coming up for you.
yeah, and my like savior has been that my best friend lets me come to her place because she lives like half a mile from me, which is really nice. And obviously she's friends with my roommate. Like that's how I met my roommates, like my best friend, they're friends. Like it was good. And it's hard because I love my roommate as a person. She's like a really, really good friend. But in this relationship, it seems like she just changed a lot. And as a roommate, she's not a good roommate, but she's a really good friend. So it's kind of hard too because I don't want to just be upset with her
Yeah.
when I know she's probably struggling setting her own boundaries with her boyfriend and things like that, but it is affecting me. But one thing I wanted to touch on was that I come to my best friend's place a lot,
Mhm.
and it's kind of nice because like last week she was like, "Hey, come make dinner with me," and like I was thinking about it. I was like, "I've made dinner alone for 6 weeks. This is my first time not being alone for dinner," which you wouldn't think.
Yeah.
And so we came over here, ate together, watched a movie, and I invited my roommate to come over after her club event. So she came over and it was great. It was like good for us, I feel like, to have some bonding time, like all together. And then we're putting on, I mean, I don't know if you know the movie Magic Mike, but it's like men stripping. So it's kind of like a girls' night, right?
Yeah.
And at like 10 p.m., 10:30, she was like, "Oh, is it okay if my boyfriend comes over?" So now he's coming into my second safe place, I feel like, and I mean, were we supposed to say no? Can't really just be like, "Oh, no." And so it's like so my place I can't go to because 'cause they're there, and then I come here to feel better about it, and then they come here, so I don't really know where the win is.
Yeah, it does sound like you're kind of triangulated into it because of the friendship, having the same friend circle, and then also sharing the same living space that you're paying a lot for. And so, yeah, I'm just continuing to hear that it's upsetting because one, I mean, it sounds like that this was a friendship that means a lot to you, and you've invested it, and we're looking and, hopeful about living with this roommate. And then also the hurt that comes from, her constantly choosing to, disrespect you and bring her partner into your space and not spend quality time with you. It sounds like you really were looking forward to spending more time with her.
Yeah, I think it makes it hard because I was so excited too, and like
Yeah.
since I was a transfer student, I didn't have a whole network of friends. So I was like, oh, this is great. Like I'm gonna have like a best friend. Even it doesn't need to be that, I don't want her going and seeing him, but it's small things between the day, like, oh, when we wake up, maybe we'd have coffee together for like 20 minutes. I don't know. Things
Yeah.
like small things just don't happen.
Yeah. And I'm hearing that you feel more lonely is what it sounds like.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah, and it's hard because I feel like I always have to like text my friend, because I don't want to be at my place. So it's like I'm never even there.
Yeah. Is it bringing up
Yeah.
some emotion for you right now?
Yeah.
Yeah. I could see that in
Yeah.
your eyes, like starting to feel it.
Yeah, it's nice to talk about it because everyone I talk to is like my dad, for example, is like, "Oh, just get him to pay rent." I'm like, "Okay, let me do that." Let me just be like, "Hey, can you pay rent?" Like
Yeah.
that's just not a reasonable solution. So it's nice just to have someone be like, "Yeah, that is frustrating."
Yeah. More than frustrating, it's hurtful and it's causing you distress.
Yeah, exactly. And something that happened today that is why I wanted to bring it up during our session because I didn't really want to talk about it because I feel like the more I talk about it, the more upset I get.
Hmm.
But, we have to have, like, someone like, maintenance person come to our apartment this morning, and I left because they weren't supposed to come for the afternoon, then they called and they were come in the morning, and I was at the gym doing my me time, and, um, my roommate calls me and is like, "Hey, like, I'm not home, like, the maintenance guy is on his way, like, is there any chance you can be home soon?" And I was like, "Oh, like, I'll be home in, like, 20 minutes," and she was like, "Okay, great." So, I get home, and her boyfriend's there, so I'm like, why did I just have to do this when your boyfriend's here? Like, I have to be there when he's there? Like, he can't just open up the door? It's just opening the door. I mean, it's not like, oh,
Yeah.
this problem. I mean, we have to turn our gas on. Like, they literally have to like open a door and flick a switch. Like, I was just like, what? What? What do you mean? Like, he's here. And so then I walked inside and I was frustrated. And ever since I said something, instead of being in the mornings when she's not there, he like hides in her room and pretends like he's not there, which is even more weird because then I'm like, I only know he's here because of his shoes, which is just creepy that I'm, like,
Yeah.
looking at that. Yeah, and so I see his shoes, and me and my roommate have our locations just so we know when each other's home, and I know she's at the gym, and I was like, "That's weird, like, he must not be home or else she wouldn't have asked me to come home." So I was like, "Hello, is anyone here?" Like, "Yavar, hey, are you here?" Because the door is shut, no response. And I was like, "That's weird." And there's no sound machine or fan on, so I know he's not sleeping. And which is I know I feel like a crazy person that I'm thinking this deep into it, but and then I texted Evelyn, I was like, "Hey, is he here? Because I can't tell." And she's like, "Yes, he's here." And it's just creepy to like I would think I'm home alone if I didn't text her and
Yeah.
there's someone there, and let alone a guy that I hardly know. I mean, I just don't know him well enough, and I don't know what I can do. Like, "Oh, should I walk in my robe? Is he home? I don't know. Can I leave because he can open the maintenance door now? I don't know."
Yeah. And, I want to validate, you said, you feel crazy. I heard that. So, you're shaming yourself a little bit, but acknowledging that it is actually really healthy to talk about it because I can feel that, this emotion's been kind of held up in your body. So just acknowledging first, like it's healthy to let it out. So this is therapeutic to express the emotion. And, I think being in your living spaces, it's usually a place where you can be vulnerable and be yourself and just like be able to relax. And it sounds like that you're not given that opportunity with your roommate's partner being there and present, and then not even acknowledging your presence when you are there. That just sounds
Yeah.
super uncomfortable even hearing you talk about it.
Yeah, it is really uncomfortable. It makes I know we talked about it, but it makes me sweat just talking about it 'cause it makes me so mad and like worried.
Yeah. And it sounds like, so I wanted to ask this earlier to clarify, but you have said a few times like you set boundaries. Can you kind of tell me about what were some of those boundaries you set?
Well, so I could probably talk about like a lot of things that upset me, but I just wanted like the main things to be resolved. So I just talked to my roommate and said, I didn't realize I was gonna be living with a male roommate, and it definitely is a different living situation than I was expecting. And so I went in, talked to her, said that. That was the first thing. And then the second thing I said was, I actually did use the word boundary because I wanted to get my point across. And I was like kind of laughing a little bit because I was awkward because it's uncomfortable. And so I went in there and I was just like, another boundary I want to set is that when you're not home, I just don't think he should be here. I was like, even if it's just for a little bit, like, I don't think he should be here. If, like, maybe if you leave in the morning, then he leaves in the morning. And that was really the only boundary I set. Like, I was just like, if you're not here, I don't want him here. And that's really all I care about. I mean, if he's gonna come over at 11 p.m. every single night and they're gonna sleep together, I mean, what am I gonna do about that? Whatever. I'm not gonna sleep with her. And so that was the only thing I said. And that's why it makes me so upset, is because I could have said, like, I probably have like a list of like 25 things I could be like, can you not do this, this, or this? And I just did one thing that I really wanted fixed. And then the next day, she left him for 3 hours and it was just me and him there. And it was like 12 hours after our conversation.
Yeah, so not feeling heard in
Yeah.
showing those boundaries and what you need to feel comfortable in your space, that it was not a she didn't bring any attention to it.
Right. And if anything, it kind of feels like more like I'm being manipulated now because she says, because now he hides in the room. So I can't really be like, I know he's here unless I ask. Or like he's been really sick for like 3 weeks and I can just hear him coughing and I know she's not there. So, I mean, I can't really be like, I know he's here. I hear him coughing. I mean, that's creepy.
And it sounds like you felt more safe and comfortable going through her rather than the partner. Um,
Uh,
but you are trying to in some way communicate because you really want something to change. And again, it just sounds like that's not being heard, or there's not really respect there to acknowledge changing any boundary.
yeah, there's nothing changing and I feel bad because I know my roommate, she struggles with her mental health really bad and I know that, and I know that she gets really anxious because she's like really a schedule person, and I know when my best friend told me that, like, ever since they've been together, her schedule's off and, like, she stays up later and now she doesn't work out as much and she kinda, like, is, like, declining, and, like, it just is hard because I'm like, "This relationship is hurting me and it's hurting you," and then when I am talking to her, she's talking about how stressed she is with homework and school and all this, and I'm trying to be supportive and a good friend, but then she has him over every night, and I'm like, "I just really can't keep expensing my mental health for yours."
Yeah.
It's just really frustrating, and another thing that upset me was that she was figuring out her living situation. She was, like, saying that next year she's like, "Yeah, I mean, I'll probably just live alone because it would be hard to find another roommate that's, like, with as chill with Yavar being here all the time as you." And I was like,
Mm.
"Really? Like,
Yeah.
we already talked about this."
Yeah, so it does sound like maybe she's having some of her own concerns, some codependence, and it's hard for you because you're again being triangulated into that dynamic as
Yeah.
being in the living space and being around them a lot. It sounds like, even though you try not to be by going to your friend's house or going to the gym, and it's like the place you're supposed to come home to and feel safe in. And so yeah, I mean, I'm continuing to just kind of hear that there's not any acknowledgement of your feelings, and so to continue to like be in the same space with her has to be really hard.
Yeah, it is, and it's just frustrating because I just think about it all the time now since I said something. It's like everything just, like, bothers me more.
Yeah.
Um, but I wanted to tell you that I texted her because I was like, "Oh, I'm gonna leave because Yavar's here, so if the maintenance comes, he can open the door."
Hmm.
Like, "Okay."
Yeah.
And I was like, "This is kind of my moment to just say something again." It's been, like, 3 weeks, so, I mean, I can bring it up, and I was just like, "I just would appreciate it, if he wasn't here in the mornings when you're not here like we talked about. I feel like nothing's changed since we last spoke, and I know he's here most mornings." And she responded and she was like, "There was a little overlap this morning, but, like, it was only today." And it just frustrates me because, like, I'm not dumb, like, I know he's there, I know it wasn't just today. I obviously wouldn't bring it up if it happened one time. And so I just responded and said, "It's happened most mornings, like, maybe we can talk about this again." And it's just frustrating because I don't really know what I'll say when we talk about it because I don't wanna say, "I hear him coughing, I hear his alarm go off, I see his shoes, I see his keys," like, I just don't know how I'll handle that situation because it was awkward bringing it up once, then it was awkward to text about it, and it's gonna be even more awkward to talk in person again.
Yeah, so it sounds like you've tried various avenues to communicate with her, whether it's text, in person. I heard you say you're confrontational, so you feel comfortable bringing it to her attention. But I wonder if there's a way that you could maybe express your emotion that feels more comfortable for you, and a way that she could hear you.
I know, I'm wondering how I could do that because, like, I talked to, obviously, my friend about it a lot, and she was like, because my roommate's a really good person. It's, like, not her being a bad person or friend, but she was like, "If she knew how much it was upsetting you, then I think she would change." But I don't really know how to communicate that because I don't wanna, like, start crying about, I mean, last week I was talking to my friend about it, and, like, I'm talking to you, it felt good to just, like, let it all out from, like, a week, and I just, like, started, like, sobbing. I don't really wanna do that to her because I don't wanna be like, "Look, you're making me cry," but I also don't know how to get my emotions across, and it's also difficult because 'cause we're not, like, super close because we never hang out, so it's hard to express emotion with someone I don't know well.
Yeah, again, to be vulnerable with her when you've tried to connect with her, and there's a lot. It sounds like you guys are pretty disconnected right now because most of her times with her partner.
Yeah, and one more thing I wanted to add to that, when I talked to her about it, I said those 2 things, and then the other thing I said was, like, maybe we could have a roomie night once a week where, we drink wine or watch a movie, do homework together, make dinner together, whatever.
Mhm.
And she was like, "Oh, yeah, that's great." And, then the next week, she, like, asked me, she's like, "Wanna do roomie night?" And we're, like, in the middle of the movie, and she's like, "Alright, he's here." And she, like, goes down and gets him, and they go in her room. I was like, "That is not a roomie night."
Uh, Yeah, and in those situations, I think you kind of said this in your own way, but kind of acknowledging that maybe she's having, her own concerns within her relationship and mental health. But that can't be, as we kind of talked about with your family, it can't be at the expense of your own needs and your mental well-being. And so I heard you say you feel like a little guilty saying things or expressing how you feel, when really, if this is going to be your living situation till the end of the spring semester, then maybe really thinking about how it could be helpful to kind of share, because you're processing with your friend, you're in here processing it, so you're working through it. And we tend not to be as defensive if we've had time to reflect on it, so you're doing some work right now to maybe give yourself space to share with her how you really feel.
Yeah, I feel like just talking about it right now calmed me down a lot about it because I was very worked up this morning.
Yeah.
So, like you're saying, I feel like if we were to talk about it, it'd have to be after I'd, like, had calmed down like we just did.
Yeah.
Um, but another thing that is an obstacle is that when I wanted to talk to her the first time, I had to wait 6 days because
Yeah.
I wasn't alone with her for 6 days. And so then it's like build up, build up, build up, and then I know she had, like, what was it? I had, like, 20 minutes before I had to leave, and I was like, "I have to do it now because this is the only time in 6 days that I've seen her alone."
Yeah.
So it's hard, and I don't wanna, like, correlate, I don't know, really.
Yeah, I mean, I'm hearing you're being really empathetic. You don't want to attack her or have it be something that, you don't really have space to feel the emotion. And so it sounds like, because there is, so much time being spent together between her and her partner, it is really hard to even have that space to talk to her.
Yeah, exactly, and it's also because 'cause I'm trying to build our friendship, I don't wanna just keep, like, antagonizing her or make our friendship worse while also making our living situation more resentful towards me.
Yeah. So there's a fear that she may react and it may impact your friendship, but it already sounds like your friendship is disconnected.
Yeah, yeah, it is disconnected.
Yeah, I
So
mean,
I'm not sure.
yeah, you're really focused on her needs, not your own, which sounds like
Yeah,
similar to your family. Maybe there's this pattern of putting other
yeah,
people's needs before yourself, but then you can see how, like you just said, that you can feel it in your body. You feel distressed most days. You don't feel comfortable at home. Like that's really amping and contributing to your own anxiety and well-being.
yeah, so I don't know how to attack this without making it worse, and then I wanna, like,
Let's
Get
take out
out of
the
my
word attack.
house.
Let's take out the word
Yeah.
attack. You don't know how to, work through this, right?
Yeah, work through this. That's better.
I'm trying to think of ways, for you to come up with ways of how maybe she could hear you. So it sounds like it may be hard to do it in person. You like confrontation, but you'd also maybe not have a space to do so. So I guess what other way do you think you could communicate to her?
Well, it's hard because I feel like I could text her, but I also don't want her to feel like I'm coming over to our mutual friend's house and we're drafting a text about her and we're talking bad about her and I made this text together, and I don't want her to feel like I'm upsetting her while also her friend, and like that's not really fair. So I don't really know if I'd want to text. And I don't really know any other line of communication I could do. I mean, I don't think I'd ever like write anything out to her. So I don't
Well,
know. I think at this point texting would be the only option since she doesn't respond well in person.
it sounds like you're hesitant to like write a letter or just write down how you feel and share it with her.
Yeah, I'm not comfortable with her, and I feel like also one thing I do like about talking in person is that I feel like when you text people they screenshot it or things like that, and I feel like in person like you understand my emotions, you see my facial expression, you see where I'm coming at, like, I'm not, like, yelling at you or, like,
Yeah.
super mad, like, you can see I'm being sincere and, like, just trying to express my emotions. So I would wanna do that, but that's not her best line of communication because, like, when I talked to her about it, she was just like, "Yeah, yeah, okay, okay, I understand." And then, like, 2 hours later, sent me this long text, and I was like, "Sorry, I made you feel that way," and stuff, so, like, clearly she doesn't do good with that,
Yeah.
but that's what I do good with. So I'm not sure how to balance that.
Yeah, so part of you wants to be in person because it sounds like you feel more comfortable, and then you'll be able to like express truly how you're feeling. And there's part of you that knows it might be better to communicate with her via text based on her communication style. However, you don't want it to be like screenshotted or people or her to think that you were collaborating with other friends to write that.
Yeah, exactly, and that's how it make me feel, and I know, everyone, like, in our friend group knows how they are, like, how codependent they are, so I wouldn't be worried about someone, like, reading my text, but I just don't really want her, like, showing her boyfriend, and then it's just, like, this guy I don't know disliking me at my own place all the time, and it's just hard because I didn't ask for a lot. I just asked, like, once a night, like, once a week, so 1 every 6 days, he's not here, which really isn't, like, a lot to ask for,
Mhm.
and for him to leave in the mornings when she leaves, like, I understand he wants to walk to classes, but I pay, like, $1,000 a month, so I'm close to classes, and he doesn't. So
Yeah, so I hear you advocating for yourself and acknowledging what your needs are, but then you go back and then you're processing how it's gonna impact her or your relationship,
yeah.
how she'll feel, or who she could tell, or this and that. And so I think it's kind of coming, in the middle of that and acknowledging, yes, you can have empathy and care about her emotions. And I think, it's causing you so much distress right now that I don't think she's experiencing that with you. She may have stuff within a relationship, but it sounds like you're really attending to her needs and
Yeah.
meeting her where she's at, and you're not getting that from her.
Yeah, that's exactly how it is, and I feel like I know she's going through a lot, but she, like, talks I don't know, when I know she's having a bad day, I know she's having a bad day, but, like, if I'm having a bad day, I don't know if she would know. So it's hard because I feel like I'm seeing, like, these emotions on her side, and but she thinks I'm okay, and I'm just, like, not in that same headspace.
Yeah, so it sounds like that there's not neutrality in the relationship. Like it sounds like you have given more, and then now the situation with her boyfriend being at your apartment all the time, it's caused even more tension. So it sounds like you're kind of conflicted. Like, do you want to deepen the friendship, or do you want to, put some of these boundaries up? And it may hurt the friendship, but even so, right now your needs and comfortability and are not being met.
Yeah. Yeah, it's definitely a tear between those 2 things, and it kind of prevents me from doing anything about it, which is worse than one or the other, I feel like.
So feeling kind of stuck.
Yeah, and I know I keep, like, saying that I'm thinking about her needs and stuff, but, like, yesterday I came home and she was just, like, crying really hard, and she was like, "This week has been not my week," and, like, something fell and broke, and she was like, just sent me off, and she was like, talking to you made me feel so much better. We talked for like 20 minutes, and then her boyfriend came over. But aside from that, like, then later that night she was just saying like, this has been a bad week, so then I don't want to like add to it. But I'm seeing like her other factors that are stressing her, but she thinks like I'm just, doodly do and like good, I guess. I don't really know how she would think that since I've brought it up, but I don't know.
I wonder, do other people in your life kind of maybe not know sometimes when you're distressed or anxious or like you need something? Like, is it kind of hard for people to see that part of you?
Yeah, I think so because I'm just really like outgoing and like just I always feel like everyone's got their own things going on and like why would I don't really need to like complain about this or that or whatever. Actually, it's kind of funny you said that because a good example is that I've been getting really bad like headaches and migraines and stuff. And I was like talking to my doctor about it, and we talked for like probably like 45 minutes. She was like, "Oh, I would have you fill out this anxiety sheet, but I just don't think you have any of that. Like that just doesn't sound like you." And I was just like, "Wow, I really do not show this at all." And I was just like, "Oh yeah, no." And I just didn't say anything, but I feel like that is definitely a good reflection.
Yeah, so like mental health concerns can sometimes be invisible, right? So like if your leg's broken, people are like, oh, let me help you hold the door. But if you are coping with anxiety and people aren't seeing the symptoms of it, or you're able to hide it really well, then you're kind of suffering alone and not really having
Yeah,
space to have that support because people don't know you're coping with it. Even a physician was negating, even though you were expressing it,
yeah.
that you had anxiety or you have anxiety.
Yeah, exactly, and that made me feel like hearing it from a doctor makes you feel like, "Oh, I'm fine then."
Yeah. And I think there's kind of that stigma too of mental health, and there can be some shame, I think, with it too. But I mean, just from the whole conversation today, it really is impacting you, right? The anxiety
Mhm.
is there, the stress is there. You said you were overwhelmed multiple times in the session today. And so I think leaning into kind of acknowledging your own emotion and giving yourself permission to, talk to your roommate if that's part of you feeling and having space to be more comfortable in your apartment, and in just letting yourself let go of some of that anger, because it's just building, right? Like you said,
Yeah.
it's just staying in your body, and the little things are going to continue to annoy you in ways probably that are even stronger than just anger, because there's that underlining resentment of everything that's going on that's just continuing to build.
Yeah, I do think that I'll have to bring up something soon or else I might, like you're saying, the buildup might I just don't want it to come out at an unexpected time, like, I would be nervous that since, like you're saying, it is building up that, like, maybe one small thing and I wouldn't be able to catch myself and I'd kinda just, like, react.
Mhm.
And I wanna do it before I were to do that, for sure. I think I just need to, like, bite the bullet, and what works best for me is talking in person, and like you're saying, put myself first, and I may need to do that, and if she's uncomfortable, I mean, I'll probably be uncomfortable, but
Yeah,
I
you
don't
could
think I
even
can keep it.
acknowledge that, right? Like, I think this is an uncomfortable conversation. Like, we had a friendship going into this. I don't really, see us connecting like we used to before, and I really miss you. Like, you can come from it from like a non, aggressive way, and just kind of acknowledge the hurt you feel. That gives
Yeah.
people more space to be like, oh, like I am impacting you, right?
Yeah, I think that's a good way because I like putting it that way because then it's not really like, "Oh, I'm, like, feeling this emotion really hard." It's, like, a super deep level of me. It's more surface and, like, so she can, like, understand what it's doing to me without details or getting me super worked up.
Yeah, maybe all the examples. I mean, she knows what's happening, right? She knows he's there when you're there, when you've directly asked her not to be there. Um,
Right.
those feelings you're sometimes saying you feel crazy, like, no, you're not crazy. He's actually in the room and they're just ignoring what they're doing.
Yeah, yeah, it does. It makes me feel really crazy. I
Yeah.
hate that
It might
word.
be,
I hate when people call me that.
yeah, a little, like you said, I think there's a little bit of gaslighting, a little manipulation within there too. Not intentional, but it's coming up.
Yeah, definitely. And it's hard to feel that in like my own home.
Yeah, so I'm aware of the time, so we're kind of coming towards the end of our session today. And so it sounds like you were able to express the emotion in here. You know, I'm not going to tell you what to do. I think that's something and a choice for you to navigate yourself. But I think it's important to honor your own needs and your own well-being. And so I'm here to support you through that process. And I really appreciate you being so open and vulnerable today.
Yeah, thank you so much for letting me talk to you about it. I think that this conversation helped me not, explode
Yeah.
on my roommate. So it's good to get those emotions out, and now I can come into it with like a clear mind, and I have like a good way to start the conversation, just acknowledging everything and knowing that's what I can do.
Yeah. So I look forward to seeing you next week. I hope you have a good rest of your day and week, Olivia, and I will see you then.
Okay, thank you.
Thanks.
Bye.